And now, another BF.
Good afternoon, and I would like to welcome you to the June 3rd, 2019 meeting of the Orlando City Council. We're going to begin today's proceedings with the invocation offered today by Pastor Judith Clattenburg. Pastor Judy grew up in Baltimore. She's the wife of Alex Clattenburg, and together they pastor Church in the Sun in Orlando. The ministry at Church in the Sun has taken them all around the world with missionaries from Guatemala to Spain. Pastor Judy's raised 2 sons, 2 daughters, and is the proud grandparent of 7 grandchildren. In addition, the invocation will be led today. After the invocation, we led the Pledge of Allegiance today by our city's emergency manager, Manny Soto. We have started a tradition of allowing or asking members of our city family that have served in the armed forces to lead us in the pledge. Manny retired from the U.S. Army Reserves as a major, served as an infantryman for 5 years and a Signal Corps officer for 15 years. He provided command control and communication support to various deployments and humanitarian missions, but considers his best job being platoon leader and an executive officer of a combat infantry company. You may stand or remain seated.
I want to say it's an honor to pray before the council today. Shall we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, we offer this prayer to you for our mayor and our city council members. We thank you for their dedication and commitment in the work that is before them. We give you, O Lord, honor for your continuous goodness. We need your wisdom, we need your understanding, we need your knowledge in every decision that will be made here today. May there be unity in this meeting. Remind us that nothing is impossible with you. Encourage our leaders and inspire them. We pray for their families and our city council members. Protect them and watch over them. We pray for your mighty presence to be here in this room to hear God's plan for our city. Open our hearts so that we may receive your wonderful love. We ask all this in your glorious name of Jesus. Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Here.
Commissioner Stewart?
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan? Here. Commissioner Hill?
Here.
Commissioner Ings?
Here.
Mayor Dyer?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum with all members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First item of business is consideration of minutes from the agenda review and city council meetings of May 13th. Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right. This is the first time we haven't had any awards presentations or recognitions in a while, so I'll go right into the mayor's update. And as I mentioned during the course of our agenda review meeting, our City of Orlando government family and entire community is heartbroken about the tragic, horrific events that occurred in Virginia Beach on Friday, where 11 municipal employees and a contractor who was in simply getting a permit lost their lives. We send our love to our fellow public servants and to the entire Virginia Beach community, and we're also grateful and thankful to the police officers that ended the conflict and prevented even more fatalities. So I'd ask that we take a moment of silence to honor the innocent lives that were taken. Thank you, and let's keep Virginia Beach in our thoughts and prayers. Unfortunately, we know a little bit about tragedy here in Orlando, and it's hard to believe, but Next Wednesday will mark 3 years since the darkest day in our history, and that, of course, is the Pulse tragedy, which occurred on June 12th, 2016, when 49 innocent lives were taken. But our community came together to show the world what compassion and inclusion and unity look like, and I'm proud that we continue to respond every single day in that fashion. There'll be a number of events in the upcoming days that honor the victims and the survivors and the first responders and really the community as a whole for our response, and that includes the remembrance ceremony at the Pulse Memorial, initiatives like the Acts of Love and Kindness campaign that allow our entire community to participate. And if you want more information on any of the events, go to our website at orlando.gov for more information. Tomorrow we have a very happy event. We're breaking ground on the renovation project at Lake Lorna Doone Park. We'll have our first inclusive playground, our first splash pad, new basketball courts, community center. This has been in the works and been talked about, and the community has weighed in, and I'm looking forward to turning dirt with Commissioner Hill, who has been the leader with this in partnership with Florida Citrus Sports. So join us if you can. And I also want to announce that the State of the City address will be held on Tuesday, June 18th at 10:30 at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. I will reflect on our recent accomplishments and make announcements on our priorities to keep us connected and thriving and moving forward. And you may know that there's another event that evening on June the 18th, so it will give us an opportunity maybe to juxtapose what we have going on here in Orlando with what's going on in the rest of the country. In case you didn't get that, there's a kickoff for the president at the Amway Center on that same day. Earlier this year, we began piloting a food waste drop-off station at our local farmers market. And if you can believe it, we have collected a ton of food waste already. That's pretty darn cool. So we are on our way to our 2040 goal of zero waste. And food collection is one of our initiatives under our Green Works. And today we have an opportunity to vote on an internal policy that will eliminate the sale or disbursement of food-related single-use products such as styrofoam, plastic straws, and plastic bags. We had, I guess, about 40 people that came to the agenda review meeting in support. And it's one of these areas that as the city we strive to lead in so other governments can follow. And then also if we're going to encourage the business community to do the same thing, we have to lead by example. So that will be on the consent agenda. And then I see that we have a pretty large crowd today, and I'm going to guess it's because we are approving funding for 22 mayor's matching grant proposals. I see a lot of heads shaking. And it's one of the things that I really love doing, and then seeing all the projects as they come to fruition. So they're matching grants, and usually it's matched by sweat equity or other types of things, but we really enjoy giving these out, and I know the commissioners enjoy the ones in their district. So if you are an organization that is receiving a matching grant today, would you please stand and be recognized? Okay, I was right that a lot of people are here for the money today. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda, and it's acted upon through a vote, single vote of council. It's a number of items. We give each of our commissioners an opportunity to comment on items from the consent agenda, as well as update you on important happenings from their districts. We rotate the order that we do that. Commissioner Hill is first up today.
Thank you, Mayor. On the consent agenda, C16, temporary use for the permit for Orlando City Fan Zone for the MLS All-Star Game and Orlando City Soccer Home Games. I would like to defer that into June 17th, which we're really excited about that MLS in Orlando City Soccer, but staff and myself.
If there's no objection to that, we will defer it, but to a specific date certain.
Yes, sir. It will be June 17th.
Okay.
Thank you. And what's going on in District 5? As you know, we're getting the downtown Valencia campus here in Paramore. It will actually officially open up here, I think, August 26th. But they have another program that they're incorporating with that, and it's the Accelerated Skills Training. And they have multiple certificate programs that will be offered there from 5 to 22 weeks that pays anywhere from $15 to $28 an hour. And on the 14th and 15th, we had a community meeting, which was offering registration to the residents there in the west side of Orlando at the Callahan Community Center and the Northwest Center. And there are still opportunities for registration. And there are some certificate programs, which this is very important, that you don't have to have a GED or a high school diploma to give these folks opportunities and an entry into the workforce. So I was excited about that and really appreciate all that Valencia Community College and UCF is doing to make sure that they impact the folks that live within the footprints of that area. Also, along with the leadership of Sherry Gulch of our Economic Development Department and Brooke Myers, we had a roundtable. We had Mr. Turner, which is the director of the White House. He came down and introduced himself and kind of listened to the concerns of the community, the faith-based community, those in the business community and residents, to talk about opportunity zones, which is an initiative that's coming throughout the White House to offer incentives for economic development in some of our most vulnerable areas here in the city. And that was well attended. There was great dialogue. As we know, economic development and improving the lives of the citizens here in the city of Orlando and the county is not about politics, it's about people. And it was just great to see people come in a nonpartisan way to talk about how we can improve the lives of folks in these vulnerable areas through economic development and job training. I'd like to thank Chief Rolone and also Officer Patterson, which is our District 5 Community Police Officer, Carl Anderson of our Neighborhood Watch, and Mr. Kevin Kilpatrick. Unfortunately, we have to think about being proactive in times such as this, especially in church, something that we never used to have to do. And through Mayor Dyer's leadership and council's approval, we have found some funding for OPD to go out throughout the community to instruct our parishioners and security teams there in the churches on active shootings. And it was well attended, Chief. Folks was really empowered. As I go throughout the community, they're still talking about some of the preventive mechanisms that they were taught and having some follow-ups for each specific church when it came to active shooting. So great job for your team. They did a great job there. We have, when Mayor was talking about the renovation of Lake Larned and the inclusion and the those for disabilities and it being all inclusive, there was a champion and that happens to be in here. She's here for another reason today because the mayor gave some matching funds to the West Lakes community, but it was inspired by her daughter. And Mrs. Tangia Spiegel, can you and your daughter stand? Can we give them a round of applause? She has a daughter that is special needs, and through her love for her daughter and community, her being a resident there all of her life, 29 plus years, over 50 years, something that never has been done in the city of Orlando through parks is being done there at Lake Larned. So thank you, council, and thank you, Mayor, for your leadership. That $9 million will be put into Lake Larned with all the amenities that the mayor mentioned in our recreation department. Another amenity that's never been done is the splash pad. So we'll be having a state-of-the-art splash pad there, and it's just going to be enjoyed by all of the citizens of Orlando. It's going to be a regional park. And with that, there was many memories held there at Lake Larned. We had a cookout. It was called The Final Memories. Now we're going into a new memories and times that will be shared at our newly renovated Lake Larned. And we had over 500 residents throughout the city that came out last week to have that celebration and kickoff. And I could not have done it without our city recreation department. So Lisa Early, Brenda March, thank you for your PKZ team and our recreation department coming out to help us with that. And we had Orlando Police Department there also, Chief. So this was a community event. And I think Westlake's Partnership was there serving food, also helping out. I didn't call them and they just showed up. So it shows about public-private partnerships and how we can grow in a whole there in that west side of Orlando. And then on 5/26, we had the Orlando Carnival, where Mayor Demmons and myself was the Grand Marshals. Alan Johnson and Craig Boykins was very instrumental with the Orlando Carnival group by helping them walk through this and making sure that it was affordable for them to bring almost 15,000 folks throughout Central Florida and the nation there to Tinkerfield last Sunday, which was a very hot Sunday. But we had a great time. I think it's almost 23 islands there in the Caribbean, and all was represented, and it was, it was a carnival, just let me say that. And then I attended on 5/29, I just came back from Attorney General Ashley Moody's conference on crime prevention in urban neighborhoods. It was last year, for the last 40 years, it was called Crime Prevention in Black Neighborhoods. But as we move forward, we know that crime is all of our problems, and it's not just in black communities, especially. There's been a new concentrated focus, as it should be, on opioids, and those are in suburban communities now. That's affecting many of our children. And we expanded and changed the name to Crime Prevention, period. And they were giving great strategies on mental health, rehabilitation, not just incarceration. And it was led by many of our law enforcement agencies in the Urban League throughout Florida. So it was well attended. There was over 1,000 participants, and there was a delegation. We didn't have representation, but next year we will, about 300 youth, and that was great. And with that, Mayor, that's all. We will be on Wednesday starting our second cohort of CNAs, home health aides, phlebotomists, EKG readers with our patient care training program, which the mayor helped kicked off and help us support. So the next 20 will be coming in. So right now we have 20 that just finished last week, another 20 that will be starting on Wednesday, and then 4 weeks from there, another 20. And then in July, we'll have 60 graduates from our medical program here at the city, Mayor. Thank you.
Great, congratulations. Commissioner Rings.
Thank you, Mayor. UCF film professor Anthony Tony Major played a huge role in African American cinema past and future. And I want to say that Professor Major retired from UCF after 24 years, suddenly passed away in California this last week. He was attending a wedding there in California. He leaves to mourn a wife and 2 children. But Professor Major has spent more than 4 decades creating films that depict slices of the African American experience in the United States. He was an actor, producer, director, and documentary filmmaker and professor. He worked with well-known actors such as Brad Pitt, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, and Red Fox of the Sanford and Son. He also finished a full-length documentary about the 2012 shooting death of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin in Sanford, Florida. An early cut of the film won the Grand Jury Prize award at the Orlando Urban Film Festival last year. He had impacted so many in Hollywood. Some of his students have graduated and now actors, producers, and directors, and talent agents in the film industry and the theater industry. So I'm certainly going to miss Tony Major because he was a great friend of mine as well. And it was, as I said, a very sudden thing. The Orlando Urban Film Festival kicked off its year at the UCF Center for Emerging Media on Livingston Street on May 24th and the 25th. I was there that Friday. The film festival aims to raise its profile by moving downtown, and this is the 6th edition of the film festival. Jason Gregory is the festival's new president, and he wanted to make sure that they really expand with the Orlando Urban Film Festival. It had been at Universal Studios City Walk. The Jones High School alumni band played at the reception, and the documentary that was screened was The Marching Forward, about the invitation of Jones High School band to the 1964 World's Fair at the Orlando Urban Film Festival. Is where it was screened here at UCF. Also at that screening and the Orlando Urban Film Festival was Anthony Tony Major. Tony was in attendance at this event before going out to California. He went to California actually for a wedding. I had an opportunity to meet with Tony and also talk with him on that Friday, May 24th. But I had no idea that that would be the last time that I ever spoke to Tony personally. Tony is a very fine gentleman, very great professor at UCF. I know he's going to be surely missed. And just to let you know, June is African American Music Appreciation Month. It was first initiated as Black Music Month by President Jimmy Carter in 1979. He decreed that June would be the month of black music. And in 2009, President Barack Obama proclaimed it the African American Music Appreciation Month. And he said that many African American music and musicians have helped the country to dance, express our faith through song, to march against injustice, and to defend our country's enduring promise of freedom and an opportunity for all. And then June is also the Caribbean American Heritage Month, and that's celebrated by many of the largest Caribbean ancestry groups in the United States, which includes the Puerto Ricans, the Cubans, Dominicans, Jamaicans, Haitians, Trinidadians, Tobagians, Bajans, Belizeans, Bahamians, and the U.S. Virgin Islanders. So again, congratulations to our Caribbean American Heritage Month. And then also, I celebrated the Asian American Pacific Island Heritage Month event here in Orlando at 7017 South Orange Blossom Trail. Commissioner Tony Ortiz was there to present a proclamation from Mayor Dyer and himself. The event was very well attended and very well received, and it was a great proclamation and presentation by Commissioner Ortiz. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Move to Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. First of all, I want to give thanks to the Central Florida Sports Commission and UCF for recently hosting the men's and women's tennis championship, national NCAA championship. They did a great job, weather cooperated, and we had several thousand people and students that were able to compete, but also to experience all of the lifestyle that we offer in Central Florida. And I asked them in the opening kind of reception if they were excited about going to the attractions or maybe to our Performing Arts Center. They said, nope, we're heading straight for the beach when this is over. So I guess that's all part of our lifestyle as well. But I remind myself, as I do everybody, when we have these big events, yes, they're focused in a certain area, but it gives us a chance to expose the entire country to what's going on in our city, and I think it does well for all of us. So congrats to those folks. And then finally, I want to congratulate everybody with the Mayor's Matching Grant. I think it's a great program. Truly, it's a partnership. The neighbors put some either equity or dollars or both up, and the city matches that. So congrats, and I especially want to mention one of my HOA managers. Monty, give me a wave over in the corner. Monty Brown, if you think you have a hard time, he runs about 7 or 8 HOAs in the Vista Lakes community. So you think you're having a bad day, this guy has to take care of 7 or 8 HOAs and keep those folks happy. But they're one of the recipients and well-deserved. So congrats, Monty, and congrats to all the winners. So thank you, Mayor.
All right, we'll move to District 2. Commissioner Ortiz.
We'll keep it simple today too, sir. Same thing, I want to congratulate all the recipients of the Mayor's Matching Grant. And in addition to that, make sure that everybody remembers that in 3 days we commemorate D-Day, our landing on Normandy. So all of you folks that have families that served during that time, let's keep everybody in our prayers. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to District 3. Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate Commissioner Gray and Commissioner Ortiz yielding their time to me. I've got about 45 minutes of some things I'd like to talk about. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. No, I won't take a long time, but I do want to share a couple of things that are important to me. First, Mayor, thank you for your comments about Virginia Beach. I am, as I shared earlier, I'm tired of signing those flags. Our country needs to do something about how to protect people. And it's unfortunate because, as with this location, it could happen just about anywhere. And it has happened here, and that leads me to the next point, is that next week we commemorate, if you want to call it that, and I use that word intentionally because our goal is to bring something good out of something horrific. And so next week we want to ask for random acts of kindness to remind our community of what our community actually is. So I'm going to ask you to do some simple things or some big things. You may want to mow the lawn for somebody or run in a charity run, or you may just want to open the door for somebody or let somebody cut in front of you when they're on the interstate. It's okay to remember who we are and what we can do to make this world a nicer place. So we had a great legislative update this morning for those who are listening. Get a chance to go onto our workshop and get a chance to see where we were. I appreciate so much our legislative team and what they've accomplished, and a very challenging Tallahassee area. We've done well from that standpoint. I remember a couple years ago, Mayor, you said that if we can get out with them without them doing anything, we would be better off. Sometimes we don't quite get that, but we do have a good team up there that's looking out for our city's and our community's best interest, and I appreciate that. Let me also share with you that as a reminder, the hurricane season starts just June 1 and through June 6. There are some sales tax holidays that are going on for some special disaster items. In Lou Gardens, the Enchanted Fairy Door exhibit is back. Some of y'all remember this from last year. We've got a whole bunch of new fairy doors, a chance to go through Lou Gardens and enjoy that. So please come on out. Don't forget, it's free on Father's Day. So if you'd like to take your dad out to walk around the park, please take advantage of that. Retro City Cycles is going to be hosting the Ivanhoe Village After Hours on Thursday the 13th at 5:30. So you get a chance to please come over there. Our own bicycle and pedestrian coordinator, Ian Sakona, will be speaking and talking about how we can engage everybody in better pedestrian and bicycle safety. So I appreciate y'all being involved with that. I do want to mention a couple of things on the agenda. The Mayor's Matching Grant is important. I want to share, I don't want to go through all the ones that affect District 3, but there are several that affect District 3. Two in particular I want to share. The Orlando Ballet and their scholarship training for enrichment of primary students is great. The STEPS program, thank you for that. Where are they? There they are. I kept thinking, I'm looking past you, I didn't mean to do that. And the College Park Neighborhood Association will be putting a wonderful mural honoring Lake Adair. Are they here? see them earlier. And those are two that we are funding, I guess, today, Mayor. $141,000, 22 projects, and each project has the equivalent of sweat equity to accomplish that task. That's a big deal. And when we share these stories of things that we do around the community and around the state, other cities don't do this kind of thing. But we know the value of people being engaged in a local community, and it's important. And Mayor, thank you so much for keeping that going. Also want to make a quick comment on A2. I had a wonderful talk last week with Chris Castro about the plastics and the foam ban. I appreciate that. And while it may seem like a small step, I think it's an important step to our city in that we are sharing that leadership. Just like the mayor said this morning, we have taken that leadership on many occasions. And where it may seem like a small venture, it gives confidence to those others around us to move forward. And I thank you, Chris, for doing that. And thank you. One of the things that we have to do is we have to work better on education. So I'm going to work hard on that to make sure that people know exactly what it means and exactly what it has the impact in the long term, not only for our landfill, but for also the other things that are related to styrofoam. So, and that's all that I have, Mayor. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer. And as someone whose district the Pulse nightclub is located in, we are still helping the community, the folks that were impacted by that through the Orlando United Assistance Center 3 years later. And we have just got to stop the gun violence and the senseless murder in this country. We have got to do something. I mean, I'm tired of signing flags and sending thoughts and prayers. This is ridiculous. And you can't go to church, you can't go to work, you can't go to a movie theater, you can't go to a concert, you can't go anywhere without senseless gun violence. And it's an epidemic, and it's killing way too many young people. I think it's becoming one of the leading causes of death of young people in this country. And we should be embarrassed and ashamed that we're allowing this to continue. On a happier note, the Mayor's Neighborhood Matching Grants, we have the Adult Literacy League, Blankner School PTSA, and Thornton Park District banners. Glad to see that on the agenda today. On policies and procedures on item A2, I'm thrilled to see the single-use products on city property. They have to be compostable, biodegradable, recyclable, and we will allow straws for people with disabilities upon request. But again, these are all things that end up in our landfills, and I'm delighted to see that we're imposing this on city-owned facilities, venues, parks, and events. And I was embarrassed a few years ago to see that Earth Day, we covered Lake Eola Park on Earth Day in garbage. So I'm glad to see that we're doing something about this and making sure that we're implementing responsible policies to benefit our environment. You got to walk the talk, folks, and we're doing that today. Also on the agenda today on Public Works, Harlan and Marty are here from SODO. I'm delighted to see the Public Works projects, crosswalks improvements over by Orlando Health, landscape improvements along the FDOT right-of-way at Orange and Michigan, and also a hazard mitigation grant for Lake of the Woods, Cherokee, and East Lake Arnold, which are really important infrastructure projects. And if I can have a moment, since everybody else talks about things in their district, I want to thank Mayor Dyer for joining me at Lake Eola. We just introduced 2 new black-necked swans. Lake Eola resident, yes, I know, it's a good thing. The swans are a great thing. Yes, we can be happy about that. Yes, I know. I hope she picks one. I'm freaking out. I'm like so worried she's not going to fall in love with one of the boys. But the Berglerette. But Queenie now has her choice of 2 young men that she may, and we think it's going to work because she actually has sat on other swans' nests. But this was actually the idea of Lake Eola resident Sean Pennington. He wanted to donate a swan. It's not that easy. We had to actually find a place. We had to get him quarantined, all this stuff. And because he was so passionate about this, I said, people have often come to me and wanted to donate a swan to the park. So we now have a program called Swanathon. All right. So if you would like to donate money to buy or to help our birds at Lake Eola Park, we actually have another swan named Spade who does not have a mate. So if you'd like to donate money to help our Lake Eola swans, we'd love to have that. Again, Swanathon is our orlando.gov website. And you can also buy a Swanathon t-shirt at our Discover Downtown Center. So again, I'd love for people to support it. I've had lots of folks say that they want to make a donation, so we've set up the infrastructure. Now y'all put your money where your mouth is. Let's help these swans out, okay? Thank you, Mayor, that's all I had. And with that, I will move the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan to move the consent agenda, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to our CRA meeting, but we're going to take about a 30-second recess. So if there is anybody that was just here to see the consent agenda pass with the mayor's matching grants on it, now would be a great time if you want to make a quick retreat.
Okay, that's the orange one? We have 3
Well, I'll see you tomorrow, right? Are you skipping out early? There's no objection. We'll recess the city council meeting and convene the CRA meeting. Thomas. Are you guys Valencia students? Okay. Commissioner Stewart was trying to convince me there was no summer school and we wouldn't have any Valencia students.
These are special students. We'll get ahead.
There you go. Okay, Thomas, let's see. We have CRA Advisory Board minutes from April 24th. Is there a motion to accept those? Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2 is approving May 13th CRA meeting. Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, number 3, Thomas.
All right, number 3. Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Number 3 is approving proposed changes to amend the guidelines of the Downtown Facade and Building Stabilization Program. You may recall that this program was created back in 2008 and currently provides grants to residential and commercial buildings valued between $5,000 up to $40,000, or 50% of the total cost of improvements, whichever is less. The program guidelines were last updated in July of 2015, but the funding amounts have not been increased since the inception of the program in 2008. The purpose of the proposed changes to the program continue to be the improvement of the appearance and stability of buildings within the downtown CRA area, thereby increasing property values, and as well as assisting owners with heavy maintenance and appropriate replacement of key facade features as recommended by the DT Outlook, which is, of course, the Downtown Atlanta Community Redevelopment Area Plan. Under the new program, the commercial area is located in North Quarter, Eola, and Central Business District. Planning areas of the CRA would now become eligible for funding for stabilization improvements. These would join the Paramore District, which is already currently eligible for stabilization. And along with funding for eligible properties would now go between $15,000 maximum for residential and $120,000 maximum for commercial buildings, or 50% of the approved improvements, whichever is less. Eligible improvements would expand to include, but not limited to, murals and interior life safety systems such as firewalls, sprinklers, and fire alarms, and lighting systems. And both the Downtown Facade Grant Review Committee as well as the CRA Advisory Board have reviewed and do recommend approval. So staff is requesting approval of the revised Downtown Facade and Building Stabilization Program Guidelines, now the Downtown Commercial and Residential Building Improvement Program Guidelines, subject to the review and approval of the City Attorney's Office.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Questions or discussion? Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I love pretty much everything, but there's just a segment I have a problem with, which is the $15,000 that we're allowed to be allocated to homes that really don't need to have that kind of incentive. I'm not talking about the ones in Paramore. I'm talking about other historical ones. I know some people may think, well, they're part of the CRA. By all means, I get that. But the problem is, other people's around the city are also paying taxes, and they don't get this kind of a chunk of money to be able to. I mean, those who don't qualify, I know there's certain programs for people that qualify, but there's others that don't qualify. They don't get to have $15,000 to do to do facade enhancements in their homes. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and vote no in this particular.
Okay, well, they'll all come back here for approval. So any other discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Show it 6-1, Madam Clerk. Thomas, further business to come before the CRA?
There's none, Mayor. Thank you.
Then the CRA will stand adjourned, and without objection, will convene the Neighborhood Improvement District Board of Directors. And one item we have is the Police Satellite Office Funding Agreement that we've already voted on as City Council, item EDV 14, and in conjunction with item B3, which was the lease agreement with Orlando Health. So is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Brooke, any further business for the NID? Wherever you are, I guess there isn't. Okay, then we will adjourn the NID board meeting. There is no OPEB board meeting. That brings us back to City Council business. Item 8, new business. Election of 2 pro tems, mayor pro tems for one-year terms beginning July 19th or July 2019 through June 2020. I'll open the floor for motions for Mayor Pro Tem 1.
Mayor, can we ask about the rotation? Who's next in the rotation?
Madam Clerk, do you have, generally by custom, we rotate whoever Pro Tem 2 is, which I don't know that, should become.
Commissioner Ings is Pro Tem 2 right now, so
Who
he would.
is?
Commissioner Ings.
Then he should become Mayor
He
Pro
would
Tem 1.
become 1, and Stewart's
then
up for the
Commissioner Stewart
2.
is up for Pro Tem 2.
Okay, then I make a motion that Commissioner Ings be made Mayor Pro Tem 1 and Commissioner Stewart be made Mayor Pro Tem 2.
Motion is second. Are there any other nominations?
I'm going to give Commissioner Eames a pass since he's up for re-election. That's inside joke. He said I shouldn't be Mayor Pro Tem when I was
Right.
up for re-election.
Well, that's discussion, and, well, that does bring up an issue, though, Mayor.
Commissioner Sheehan?
Since Commissioner Ings is not running for election in his seat, then who would be the next person? Because this is for the entire year.
Commissioner Stewart would become Mayor Pro Tem 1.
Then he would become Pro Tem 1, and then who would be and then Ortiz?
So Ortiz would be up next.
Can we go ahead and make that notation right now so we don't have to deal with it later? No, I mean, we have to decide because there's going to be
Let's not make let's do it the way we've been doing it all along. I know.
She's just saying when Commissioner Ings, one way or the other, is going to be out of office in November, so just go ahead and say that Stewart would move to 1.
Well,
and
until
you
then,
move to
Mayor,
2.
until then, he's still.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
We can just vote on it
We'll
in
just vote
November.
on 1 and 2, then, it's fine.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could?
Yep.
Well, thank you, sir. It seems to me 2 years ago when we had this discussion that Commissioner Ings said that anybody running for
Exactly.
a position should not be Mayor Pro Tem. And so I look at, I don't have any issue with this, but I look at Commissioner Ings and say, has your position changed? Because somebody else was up for this and you objected. And so I'm asking, have you changed your position? And if you haven't, then I'm wondering if you would accept that nomination.
And just to respond to you, Commissioner, my objection was because she had not been a Mayor Pro Tem in the past. I have been Mayor Pro Tem in the past several years ago. our process is what it is. I'm still a commissioner, so it really shouldn't be a conversation here concerning that.
Okay, thank you.
So the original motion was Commissioner Ings as Mayor Pro Tem 1 and Commissioner Stewart as Mayor Pro Tem 2.
Commissioner Hill?
I just want to set the record straight. And I am supporting, I will vote yes for Commissioner Ings to be Mayor Pro Tem 1. But what is good for the geese is good for the gander. And it was not that I wasn't ever had experience. Nobody ever had experience before they became Mayor Pro Tem. That wasn't it. He said that it would show the community bias if I was chosen to be Mayor Pro Tem because I was up for re-election. So I will support the motion, but I do want to set the record straight that it wasn't because of my inexperience, it was because I was up for re-election.
And that was my recollection as well, but I'll support the nomination, as long as you'll take it, Commissioner Ings. All right.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
We're a big family.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Most of the time.
Dysfunctional one.
I appreciate the discussion.
That moves us to hearings, and the next agenda is a public hearing. It is the first public hearing for the proposed Vista Park Development Agreement. The second hearing will be on the next council meeting's agenda, June 17th. This agreement is related to PD Ordinance 2019-31, which also is on today's agenda. I'm going to call on Elizabeth Dang, our Planning Division Manager, to give us a presentation. Elizabeth? Is this your first official presentation as the Planning Division
It's the
Manager?
first one without Dean behind me whispering in my ear. Yes, so thank you, Mayor and City Commissioners. My name's Elizabeth Dang, Planning Division Manager, and I'm here to present about Vista Park. So this site is located west of State Road 417, the Greenway, north of State Road 528, which is the beach line, and east of Narcoossee Road. It's about 1,572 acres. This site has a very lengthy history. In 1943, the government established the Pine Castle Jeep Range, which is about 12,000 acres. And this site is a small piece of that area that was used as a bombing range, subsequently returned to farmland and open space, but it's regulated today as what we call a formerly used defense site, or a FUDS site. So in 1998, the city approved something called the Vista East Annexation and Developers Agreement, which covered a lot of the nearby properties that were subsequently annexed into the city and developed. This site was annexed in 2004, and future land use was assigned to the subject property for up to 2,955 residential units, but no zoning was adopted at that time. Then in 2007, munitions were discovered on the nearby Vista Lake site, which meant there was a new study issued by the Army Corps of Engineers. And as part of that, the Orlando building official issued a temporary halt on development in the area. And then in 2009, that report was released, providing cleanup guidelines. This particular site is still subject to the temporary halt, and that requires coordination with the Army Corps for any construction activities. So the subject property is currently being cleaned up under the direction of both the Army Corps and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and they're working towards completion of that process. But until then, no building permits can be issued until the DEP issues a letter of no further action. So in 2015, the City Council approved a memorandum of terms which outlined the regional roadway network improvements needed for this project. And this agreement is being formalized today via the Vista Park Development Agreement. In 2016, the Municipal Planning Board heard a request for a growth management plan amendment and an initial zoning of planned development. Both of those items were appealed. There was a legislative appeal here to the City Council, and then a quasi-judicial appeal for the plan development that was settled in 2016. And then early 2017, the growth management plan amendments were adopted by the council. The PD ordinance was not adopted. It had to be deferred to allow the developer time to negotiate a school capacity enhancement agreement with Orange County Public Schools. That agreement has since been completed. It was approved by the school board in April, and it's on today's consent agenda. So for today, there are 3 related items on the agenda. The first is this hearing for the Vista Park Development Agreement. The second is the first reading of the PD zoning ordinance. The PD will allow up to 4,300 residential units, 20,000 square feet of office, and 80,000 square feet of retail. So the school capacity enhancement agreement was also on the consent agenda today. So this map shows the PD development program. The north-south road is the Econ Trail extending from its current terminus near Lee Vista. Then there will be an internal loop road, and on the northwest corner, an extension of Passaic Parkway, and on the southwest corner, an extension of Hazeltine National Drive. So this recent aerial photo shows you some of the ongoing cleanup activity on the site. So the PD includes the following requirements. The letter of no further action that I mentioned earlier, wetlands requirements that must be consistent with the Water Management District, and then each neighborhood applies for a specific parcel master plan that's reviewed by the Municipal Planning Board, and each one must include, meet the PD's urban design standards, street and bicycle trail standards, and neighborhood park standards. The PD also allows up to 2,000 age-restricted single-family units. Those can be converted to what we call all-ages units per the school agreement requirements. Up to 20% of the single-family and townhome units may be gated, and the PD does require reservation of a 2-acre police station site and a 2-acre fire station site. And in addition, the PD requires reservation of a 30-acre community park that would be constructed by the developer and owned and maintained by the city. So the development agreement between the city and the development team includes provisions to confirm all of the land use, zoning, and other development standards that are in the comp plan and the PD, and it specifies dedication of land to the city for the parks, as well as addressing public utilities. In addition, it outlines the funding, design, and construction for a regional road network through the property. So it addresses 2 streets. The first is that north-south Econ Trail extension, and the city is contributing up to 50% of the cost, which is up to $31 million. And then the city works with the county on portions that are north of the subject property. The second part is a Hazeltine extension, which will be handled by the developer, but they are eligible for impact fee credits for lanes 3 and 4 of the 4-lane road, because that creates additional regional capacity. So this map shows the phasing plan for these regional routes. So segment E1 is the city's responsibility because it runs north of the subject property. It starts at Lee Vista Road and runs north to Curry Ford Road. And then the remaining segments will be constructed by the developer, starting with segment E2, E3, and E4, which gets sort of to the middle of the property. And then also at that time, segment H1, which is the Hazeltine extension, would get constructed. And then the last 2 pieces, segment E5 is the flyover of the beach line and the connection to Dowden Road to the south. So that's all expected to take about 5 years to get those construction start dates. And I'll end it there and let you know that staff recommends approval of these items, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions for Elizabeth? Commissioner Hill, then Commissioner Stewart.
I really don't have any questions, but I just want to go on record, and this might, I'm having a tough time saying it, but I got to say it as we move forward. And I spoke with Elizabeth, and she kind of explained that some of this is years and years prior to today. That I think that the council, in all due respect to Commissioner Gray, which is a lot of development going on over there, which is great, that we're investing $31 million in, we can't ask for one unit nor one home that's affordable. And I just think it's a conversation, as I spoke with Elizabeth, that we as the city have to start discussing when it comes to this northeast quarter of development and giving city incentives, that we just at least start the dialogue of some affordable multifamily or housing over in that area. But I will support this today, but I would ask for us to start that dialogue.
Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. Elizabeth, the benchmarks, what are the benchmarks besides time in terms of the construction of the road? Are there other benchmarks in terms of the percentage of the development? What are other things that are kind of controlling that besides just the sheer timing?
Right now, it is the timing, and that is part of the agreement. So if for example, that letter from the DEP takes longer than expected, or there's some other type of delay, the developer would need to approach the city and talk about renegotiating some of those timeframes.
And developers got that middle section, I think, is that right?
Yes.
And then we've got the southern section and parts of the northern section, is that right?
No, the city just has the northern section. So segment E1 is the city project.
Okay. Is that some in the county? That's not in the county, is it?
Portions are in the county, so that will have to be negotiated with Orange County as well.
Okay. So once we sign this, when do we start? Are we putting out, I guess the question is, are we putting out some money, or are we waiting for the developer to start his side and then we'll begin working on that?
Right, so a lot of it is driven by the development process. So they still have, once all of these big picture agreements are approved, they still have to go through the engineering process and the permitting process. And once all of that is taken care of, and then they start lining up actual construction, that's when the city gets involved, and there's a coordination team that will be put together.
That's when we'll start looking at our process as well.
Right.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if there was other benchmarks required of a percentage of how many houses have to be built or permitted or something to that effect.
Right now, it's just these dates in the agreement.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay.
All right, I'll open this up if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment on this. If not, Commissioner Gray, do you have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve, sir.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, that brings us to hearings. Ordinances, second reading, number 1, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2019-29, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for a portion of approximately 61 acres of land generally located south of Metro West Boulevard, north of L.B. McLeod Road, west of President Barack Obama Parkway, and east of South Kirkman Road, and from public, recreational, and institutional with the resource protection overlay to industrial, changing the zoning designation of the property from public use with the resource protection overlay district to industrial park in part, industrial park to conservation in part, and conservation to industrial park in part, providing for amendment of the city's growth management plan and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permanent disclaimer, and effective date.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ing, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify relating to this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2019-33, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, vacating, closing, and abandoning part of Ronald Blocker Avenue, generally located between West Amelia Street and Alexander Place and comprised of 0.59 acres of land, more or less, providing for the execution of affecting documents, severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and effective date.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public who would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, we'll move to ordinances on first reading, number 1.
Ordinance 2019-31, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, rezoning certain land generally located south of Lee Vista Boulevard, west of State Road 417, north of State Road 528, and east of Narcoossee Road, and comprised of 1,572 acres of land, more or less, from no city zoning to the Planned Development District with the Aircraft Noise Overlay District, providing a development plan and special land development regulations of the Planned Development District, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2.
Ordinance 2019-32, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located south of East Michigan Street, east of Mayor Street, and west of South Brown Avenue, and comprised of .2089 acres of land, more or less, and amending the city's boundary description, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as residential low intensity on the city's official future land use maps, designating the property as the one-family residential district R-1 on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 3.
Ordinance 2019-34, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for certain land generally located north of West Washington Street, east of North Texas Avenue, and west of North Dollins Avenue, comprised of 1.76 acres of land, more or less, from the industrial to mixed-use corridor, medium intensity, changing the property zoning designation from general industrial to medium intensity mixed-use corridor, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify related to this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 4.
Ordinance 2019-35, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the Orlando Health Plan Development Zoning Ordinance for property generally located west of South Orange Avenue, east of the railroad tracks, north of West Cayley Street, and south of West Gore Street to update certain exhibits to reflect Orlando Health's property acquisitions and to reflect the development of an office and parking garage, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, that concludes the official business of the Orlando City Council for today, June 3rd.